Alright, I think I'm good.
Yeah, that looks good on YouTube.
Let me know if you guys can hear me on YouTube. Alright, I think I'm good. Yeah, it's good. It's just a little delayed. Everything's going to be a little delayed, so I'll mute myself here and I'll talk over YouTube. And if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and type in the chat. Let me know if you guys can hear me on YouTube. Alright, so I got myself muted in Discord, but if you guys want to talk and ask questions, I can still hear you. But I'll be talking over YouTube. I'll drop the link in the voice chat for you guys, and then we can go from there. Hey yo, what up, Nova? I'm gonna post this on Twitter. Alright, cool. So, got people from the Discord in here, and then I'm going to go ahead and go over stuff that I've been looking at too. So I'm just going to get a couple windows open on my computer so I can make sure I can monitor all this. I haven't used YouTube to stream live in a while. But here we are. So I'm going to pull up my VC chat for everybody in the Discord, because we were having a little issues with Discord, like the frame rate wasn't working, it was blurry for everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Tia is one that we're looking at. So Tia originally, we were looking for a move up here, an impulse move up, potentially a move down here at a 1.13 shark harmonic. But we'll wait and see what happens here. The reason we did take the long initially, I saw strength, and we had a bullish Gartley for a 618 here. 618, 618, and then you had your 786 down here. So you had your type 2, right? So you had your initial push down to your Gartley. This hit here, then you come back up. You actually hit a 0.5, so let me get rid of some of this. I'll hide this for later. So ultimately, what I was looking for is I took a fib here to here on the first test. We came up, we hit our 0.5. So after that happens, you look for a move all the way back down, retest the same PRZ or potential reversal zone down here, hit this, and then go. So now that we have a new low, I wanted to take the new high to low, left to right, for an extension upwards. So right now we have a bearish shark at the 1.13 2.0 extension, so it's in range. And typically with these, sometimes you can see as far as a 0.5 retrace from this move from C to D, and that would be a bullish 5-0. So if we did come down to like 10.27, that would still be bullish. Ideally, I'd be looking to get long again. I'm hedge shorting right now. If we do come down here, I'm still in my long position that I'll hold with the hedge. And then if not, if I get stopped out with the hedge short, that's fine. I'll go ahead and just ride it up the rest of the way. So this is kind of what we're looking at now for the wave structures for harmonics, how I want to play it. I do think this thing is going to go much higher. I'm looking for upwards of like $20 for Tia. And I do think I have the entry that I can hold all the way to $20. On the log scale, I was looking at this yesterday. So let me hide these harmonics real quick. Show you kind of a little more confluence I was looking at with Tia. There's a couple things that went into this trade. One, the Gartley, of course. And then two was just on the log scale. I mean, this thing's just been a beast. And you were sitting at a trend line, so let me go to the 4 hour. So this thing was just hugging onto the trend. So trend is your friend. You're touching the trend again, you deviate below. You have a Gartley pattern at the deviation that shows me that there is potential strength for a move up, and looking for a move up from here. Then we also broke out of a downwards trend here. So that's what I'm looking at. Looks very good right now. Could add the 4.618 on here. Just for an extension, 1616, but I do think around 20 bucks is where this thing's gonna be going. What really caught my eye though was the Bitcoin pair. So if you're looking at the Bitcoin pair, this is Aptos. I don't know why I'm typing in Aptos. Maybe I want to look at Aptos after. Alright, so just regular scale, Bitcoin pair, 4 hour trend, just upward sloping, forming a neckline here, finally broke out of the neckline, so who really knows where Aptos is going to go from here. If we do get a retest, we look for a retest down here. In this area, we got a large daily fair value gap that could still fill on the Bitcoin pair. So even if we came all the way down here, and then looked for a reclaim of this, that would still be bullish. So even if we came down here, filled the gap, come up, reclaim, mess around with all the breakout traders on the Bitcoin pair, and then go from here, I think that is probably more of something along the lines that could happen. Or it could just full go from here. But this is what caught my eye. This 4 hour fair value gap here. This is where I wanted to enter on the USDT pair. At the same time, it was retesting fair value gap on the Bitcoin pair. For those that are wondering what a fair value gap is, if you're watching the stream, this space right here in between these candles, so you can actually see how these candles touch, but this is just a body right here. That's your fair value gap in between those. You had one here, you had one here. You can see in between these areas there's space. That's your fair value gap. You look for price to come back into that price, fill that, and then to reverse if you're holding above that midpoint, and ultimately want to close above the midpoint. Tia, so let's look at the dollar. So the dollar, I think if we reject from like this 104 to 105 area up here, this thing could like giga nuke and just send everything so much higher. For those watching the stream from Twitter, this is a 20-year harmonic I've had on the dollar that we called the top on the dollar back in when was this? I think like July of last year, September of last year. So far it's been playing out, looking for that 382 to 0.5 test off of the harmonic completion zone up here. If you're looking at the weekly, since we have that, I took the fib from low to high, left to right, dragged it to see retracements. Typically you want to see a 382 or a 0.5 off of the first move down on the dollar, so we're not there yet, so that's why I'm still leaning more risk on overall. Obviously this is a weekly time frame, it's going to take ages, but macro wise I do think we are bullish. and the dollar is bearish. Let me check my YouTube chat just to see if anybody's saying anything in here. Got about 46 viewers. Nice. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and post the link real quick in the Discord as well for everyone. Alright, so let's go over the dollar a little bit more. For most of you, this is inverse to price action, so most of the time, not all the time, it is correlated. Dollar goes up, risk on assets go down. So I have two extensions here. Like if we get back above this, I do expect the 618 to get hit, and then we see a move down for this Gartley pattern that we have. Sooner or later, I do see us coming down to like 94 bucks. So I'm still leaning more bullish for risk on assets than bearish. What's very interesting to me now, a lot of people were calling for the dollar to pump, but if you fib from the entire high to low that we did for 20 years or whatever amount this is, like 10 years, you're currently resting below the 236 fib, which is bearish. If you start reclaiming this, then I might be changing my mind a little bit more. Like if we start getting back above this and reclaiming this fair value gap, okay, sure. But if we're gonna come up here and tap into a weekly fair value gap at the 236 and not reclaim it, which is what we just did, we tapped into it, this could send it down hard and fast, and you could see very much so a lot of pumps on risk on assets. So ultimately, if that happens, we have targets. You have a gap here. You got your lows that you can target. You got your 382 next, and then eventually 94.71. And this could take years. This could take to the end of the next bull cycle to complete. So it's not an overnight thing, but that's just macro how I'm looking at it. S&P. This is for a much larger harmonic if it ever plays out. But we're above the 786 from the cipher, so if we continue higher, if we don't, we might reject this 886 first, but if we continue higher, we're looking for a shark at the 1.13, which is going to be up here around 5,000 for the S&P, which everything would be pumping like crazy if this continues up here. So that's just something to watch out for. That's your next target as soon as we reclaim that. I have a VIX. I just marked up here for the VIX, just massive buy. Anytime you spike up here into like the 70s, like 90s, it's only happened a couple times, like in a long time, but every single time it's been a massive buy. The 08 recession, 2020 COVID. So I just have this marked because if I ever see a flash up here on the VIX like this, it's usually a massive buy. It's a flash crash. Alright, I'm going to start going over some coins that you guys want to look at. Exactly what Anova said, couple likes wouldn't hurt your boy. Go ahead, like if you can. Like the video. I'm actually going to start doing YouTube again, seeing where I can go with this, and just start doing it again so more people can watch. Alright, so let's start at the top here. Is it possible to request charts? Yes. Lack and Sleep, go ahead. Pith. Hold on. I have charts for Pith. somewhere. I'm also on the weekly. Maybe I'm blind. Oh, here they come. They're pouring in now. Alright, so Pith, I'm actually in Pith right now. Very easy invalidation for me on this trade. So ideally, what I saw on Pith was I didn't even see that. To be honest, I just saw this trend line here. I was just checking that, see if there's any type of harmonic here. I know there is one here in this area. But what I was looking at is we had a 786 pullback here. So this, you barely can see it probably, but make it a little bigger for you. So 0.814, it's very close, plus or minus 3% to your 786. So like if you drag this down just a smidge, you're at your 786. That's very close, especially with crypto, with how wicky it is. This B point can be pretty close to it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, the better, more perfect it is, the better. But especially with crypto, it's so wicky, man. Like, this is close enough. All right, so 786. And you have another 786. So sometimes this can form like a perfect, when I get a 786, 786, two legs of a 786, that projects your 1.272. That's perfect for what I'm looking for. Usually you do see price reverse around that 786. That's when you know it's stronger. So I went ahead and just took a swing at this yesterday before I went to bed. It looked pretty good. I wanted to see if we can hold the 786 for a perfect butterfly. And if so, that my targets would be up here around this D point. A couple things I would be looking at first is obviously this fair value gap here within order block. You might want to be a little careful here. We could get rejected here, come back down, but if that holds, then we should be good. And we're going to put in a fair value gap here too. So you might see price do something like this. If it fills, hit the order block, come fill the fair value gap, and then start to go up. But ideally, what I want to see, I do want to see this trend hold, and I do want to see this 786 area hold too. So stop loss is below the trend, stop loss is below your 786. That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, pretty simple. Other than that, I mean, I just had some key levels marked out here. We had a support resistance there, support resistance here, where I would want to go ahead and probably take some profit. We had the B point, which the harmonics on the B point, usually you want to take some there because you can see stuff like come up, liquidity raid, come back down, go back lower. You can always add if you want, but you're not stressing when price was up here. You can always add back in if it does something like this and then go back up to your target. All right, Pith, 61 cents. So I'm looking at 62 cents. AVAX versus ETH. Ooh, that's a good one. Let's look at AVAX first, right? I like AVAX. So I am actually spot long from $9 on AVAX. There was a harmonic here, shark that just completely got invalidated. You can actually see you wick down into the level of the shark and found support at it. So when you have those larger harmonics, sometimes that D point, you can see it turn into like a SR, like a support resistance flipped. So it was resistance here, you start getting above it, you come back, you retest it, you go. So just ultimately on AVAX, when you're looking at this chart on the weekly, there's a large harmonic on it. I'll turn on Scott Carney software real quick because I do know it's on here. There it is. Target of $62. for the larger time frame harmonic. For first TP. But ultimately, what I was looking at when I was really getting long down here is these equal lows down here. These got taken, so you came down below that. You can see here, you actually deviated below. Perfect entry. That's one thing I saw. You have a fallen wedge. You had bullish divergence. Especially on the weekly, and you even had it on like lower time frames too, but definitely the weekly had it. So you have your deviation, you swept your equal lows over here. Ultimately, what I was really looking at here was the Bitcoin pair. This is what really sold me. So you had a larger harmonic on the Bitcoin pair, right? And you got targets up here. These are your targets. But also, on the 3 day is what I was using. This is exactly what I was posting in my Discord for everybody when I was saying to buy spot AVAX and posted when I was buying and everything. So we had this wick here. So you can actually see that you got a couple wicks over here. Held a support, right? Or you at least wicked into it. There was demand there. You had demand here. You had demand here. You had demand here. Then you have a fallen wedge, right? So you had one tap, two tap. This is your third tap, right into demand. So for me, this was like the no-brainer play, right? This was just very simple. 1, 2, 3 tap. Look at Bitcoin or AVAX price at the same time. Oops. So if you look at the dates, you have October 25th. October 25th. So it was like right here, like 10:21. But I had spotted this prior, so I started buying, and because I was looking at what AVAX price was doing at the same time the Bitcoin pair was doing that. So it was just such a no-brainer. And then you start having this breakout too here around like 970 from this downtrend. So that was where we got long on spot AVAX. So that was really what I looked for and what was allowing me to be able to catch that. If you want to ask me now what I think, I mean, this is kind of really hard. We can do some weekly analysis here, but like this is just all a gap, bro. This is just thin air. Legitimately just like thin air between this. You're almost at the mid of the fair value gap on the weekly here. So, I mean, you could watch out around 43 bucks. One second, boys. Alright, so you got this just massive gap here that we could start finding resistance at the midpoint, but I mean, dude, this thing has targets that are way higher, right? You're looking on the software like $62. You could find retraces before, but like if you want me to tell you like if you should enter or anything, I can't tell you what you should do. I can just give you my analysis, but I'm not touching this now. Like I'm looking to actually offload at some point. Alright. I mean, for levels, here, just because somebody asked before, watch for this fair value gap up here too. I mean, you have some wicks down here that you had right at a fair value gap. So, I mean, this is definitely going to be an area that you'll find resistance. Some type of resistance up here for the most part. So just be careful around that. Ordi doesn't really have much data either, man. It's been kind of like up only. AVAX/ETH. Somebody want to look at. I'm just kind of going in order here. This thing full sent. Look at this. So I was also looking at this. Same time, I completely forgot I was looking at this with AVAX. So we had like a 0.5, so technically this isn't like a crab or anything, but you do have a 0.5 and you had a 1618, so I was looking for the 1618 to pretty much provide a bounce here. And right at your 1618, your pivot, you had a nice tap into the pivot on the AVAX versus ETH pair, and it's just literally been straight up. Starting to fill some gaps now. I mean, there's no clue to really tell you what's going to be happening here. I mean, you could be looking at somewhere up in this area. Don't really see any harmonics on it because it's just been straight up only as well. So you can only just really look at what you have left here for resistance. But I mean, dude, it's just been absolutely destroying Ethereum. So we did Pyth, we did AVAX, render. Alright, so I'm actually in a render long from like 131 on my BitGet account, which I just have not opened yet. I'm just that's my only trade on there. I'm letting this run for now. I had literally signed up for BitGet, and when I got into BitGet, I literally saw price. I signed up like right when price was here, finished in this Gartley pattern, and I opened the trade, and then I was like, you know what, man? I saw it start to pump. I'm like, I'm just not gonna close it. So right now, I'm riding this trade on BitGet with render. But yeah, I mean, it looks strong. So we had a couple ratios that could project other harmonics for resistances here, and I'm sure that's what these lines are. Let's just start them fresh. So you have Deep Crab, 517. You have a bat from that pivot. And how I play this is I would be watching for these levels for potential rejections. I think I had something from here too. I think it might have been like a 618. It's not. It's a little too far off. So, yeah. But those are the areas I'm kind of looking at. Let's see if this is a 382. I'll have to pull up another chart with more data too, just to make sure this is the actual top. Do you guys remember which chart has all the data? I don't know if I saved it. Is it KuCoin? Yeah, it was. All right. So if we get like a bull market retest on the weekly, it's probably down here in this weekly fair value gap along this trend line here. Tap this, maybe you get a weekly wick below, and if it reclaims, you should be good to go. But yeah, man, this is ideally what I would be kind of looking for here. We'll now that we have all the data, we can check and see if there's any others, but that is not a good pivot. No, that's the one that we already had at like 5. And then 618 here. So those are your potential levels. We'll just mark them off one more time just so you can keep them for like a macro time frame that you could watch for rejections. Around like 509, 517, I think I said. Somewhere around there. Yeah, and you also have a, look at this. Yeah, so that's the area I'd be watching out for a rejection. All right. So for people watching the stream, there's 50 people in here. Big Time's one of them that I've been pretty vocal about on Twitter and in my Discord. I'm in from 15-cent spot, so I'm in from down here. But I'm very bullish on this coin. Just on the lower time frames, I can kind of go over like some analysis I've been working on or been looking at that I've been playing, because it's been going pretty well for me. I've been absolutely crushing Big Time recently. It's just been trading very well for me. I know this one wick got a lot of people. Let's leave that on there. All right. You can see it better on the 1 hour. All right, so we had a shark. This is a bullish shark. 0.5 here. 1272. Got you, Nova. 1272 here, or it's a 1-2, so it's still in the range. Then you look for your 886. That's your pivot point. So this is your potential reversal zone. So you're looking for a pivot here. You can actually see once you have that pivot marked out, like if I just went ahead and hid this fib and hid this just to show you. So you have that pivot marked out, and you can actually see like we only went below it like with 1-2 wicks that really went below it, but that's your pivot point. Your bodies of your candles are closing above that every single time. Proper stop loss for this harmonic, down below your X. So even if you had your stop loss down here and this wick happened, yeah, you would have went in red, but it would have went right back up in the same hour. You would not have gotten stopped out. All right, so how was I able to close a few minutes before this dump here? Another harmonic, 618. So you had a 618. This is your Gartley. These are my favorite patterns. It's in range here. And then you had your 786. So I had this marked out like a day or so before. So maybe not even a day, but like as soon as I saw this 618 here, I saw we could come back down potentially to the 886. Hold that, and then you're looking for a move from here up to your 786. So I took this trade. I took this trade from here to here. And as soon as you hit your 786, it didn't give you long, bro. As soon as you hit this bearish Gartley, you actually hit it very perfectly. Closed out like 75% of my trade here. And then I was like, okay, Bitcoin looks shitty. I actually have to go down 3 minutes to show you kind of how my thought process went. So this is where I close out 75%, and then I start seeing it coming down, and then Bitcoin started to really fall. So I opened up this chart, and I just sold the rest here. I sold the remaining 25% here. I look away for maybe 5 minutes, and price is literally, literally in this wick here. And I know this level, the 5512 or 551, was your pivot shark area, so I wanted to see that hold. So I just literally marketed back in from this level, wrote it back up before bed, got out before bed, and then over here we had like a 15-minute kind of fallen wedge structure that I was watching on Big Time. And look, you're still respecting this pivot reversal area here. But here I took another trade for about $4,000. But we had like a fallen wedge trade over here. So we had pretty much another fallen wedge. Saw a breakout occur. Took the trade. Got out of it again up here at the pivot for now. So I don't have any open leverage position. I'm still holding spot on this trade. Higher time frame, you can see how much I post about it. I'm super bullish on it, whether that be we come all the way back down again. And let me turn this. Did I just make new harmonics here? I did, didn't I? Yeah. I'll go over that one too. Here, let me go over this one first. Ideally, where I'd like to see this wave move up, especially for my spot, was going to be this one. So this is another shark pattern. This should be the 886, not 866, which is here. So between a 382 and a 0.5, 1.414, above your 1618, so it's going to be your 886. So that's what I'm looking for on this. That's ideally what I'd be looking for on this. I believe Scott Carney's software, it definitely showed that Gartley. I think it even showed this bat here, but it's kind of overridden right now by this Gartley. I'll have to figure out how to turn that on, but it can come all the way back up to 94. If it does play this is the wave structure I went over on Twitter yesterday. You look for your 0.5 retracement from this. So if this plays like this, then I will do this. So if I see price go up here, maybe get a retrace if we don't break and start holding above this, back down to the 0.5 and then go. We have a perfect 618 here from this low before your impulse move up. So you always want to start your harmonic, your X point, right here at the lowest point, right before your pivot or your impulse move up. So if we were going to do an ABCD pattern, these are other harmonic patterns. So these are actually what you see within this ratio, like your ABCD. So if you have a 618, you look for a 1618 for an extension. So if we do go a lot higher, this is somewhere that I am going to be looking for profits. If we had a 0.5 here, it would be a 2.0. 786 would be a 1272. But those are all in Scott Carney's books. So you could even see price from this low go all the way up. It doesn't matter which way it does in here. Could do some crazy shit to this price here, 130. But if we don't, break up, then where would I look to load up? Since you have a 618, that's a Gartley. It's my favorite pattern. 786. Gotta wait for more data to see where we're gonna put in this high up here. Once we get that, then we can have this, but this trade is already identified. So if we do get that, I am prepared to react if we come down here to buy. Hold on, guys, get some water. Alright. Just so those are the extremes I'm looking at, right? Just even if it taps the 886. And we're on the 4 hour too, right? So if I go to the daily and this plays out, this 786 is in a fair value gap, so I'm not just gonna ape blindly unless it's spot at this 3035. I would look for smaller market structure in this area. Bullish divs, all of that. So I do use MACD, RSI, and I have this Stoke on. I don't really use this too much. I just put it on recently just to kind of see if I want to start using it again. But another thing I use this with down here is I was finding hidden bullish divergence over here on price, and these still are holding their hidden bullish divergence. It probably looks better on the 2 hour now. So you held your hidden bullish, and this is starting to turn green now. Momentum's starting to shift back into the green, so it does look good. Like broken out of the downtrend, you're holding above the 50, you're kind of rejecting the 60 now, which is your bullish control zone. You get above this level here, you can see that impulse move up from getting above your 60. You'll see those quicker moves up, usually in your bullish control zone above the 60. I'll go over this for some people. I know some people in my Discord have already heard me say it multiple times. I'll go to Bitcoin to kind of really show you, and then I'll go back to the other charts for you guys. But so the RSI, I kind of treat it as a football field. You got your 40, you got your 60, you got your midfield, and you got your end zones up here, like your 80s to 100, right? So treat it as a football field. You're below 40, that's your bearish control zone. You can find bottoms here, but that's also where, just because it's low does not mean that it is bullish. It does not mean that it is completely oversold. You can see your biggest down moves in this area. So once you lose this, you can actually see, you probably have seen your biggest down moves. So if you go to the weekly chart, you mark that level, and then you go to your weekly. Let me mark it again. Where are we looking at here? So you fall below the 40 in your bearish control zone. Yeah, just because it's that low doesn't mean it is maybe oversold, but it means you can have your biggest moves down. Same way, if you're going above your 60, you can have your biggest impulse moves up. So if you mark your 60 for your bullish control zone, And see when price gets above that, you see impulse moves up. So you can actually just go, and once you see price starting to reclaim these levels, you can see your biggest impulse moves up. It happened again here. You had one here. So especially on the weekly chart, once you see that 60 getting flipped, you can really see huge impulse moves up. Same vice versa when it drops below your 40. All right, I can do a couple more. Look at our sorry for my harmonic mess over here. All right, so let's just hide these and then I'll bring them back in one by one. Let me show you the overview before micro structures. So my target for Arbitrum is 151. Whether that be we come down here to 80 cents again, where I started accumulating some spot, or we go from here, my target is the 151. We have a 786 here. I'm looking for this low to hold. We come all the way down here, I'll DCA again. That's that 786, like the way I took the pith trade. I think it was actually a little lower. But there's a weekly breaker there. But for now, I mean, this is still a valid play. This could be the low. On the log scale, you broke out. I mean, you even broke out on the regular too, if you wanted to pin this down here like this. But, and you're holding a momentum trend up. You had a market structure shift here. So you had a high, right? You actually came up and you took this high before coming back down. So you swept liquidity above this high. Took this liquidity, but you confirmed a higher high over here than here. So now you want to hold this low and you want to come up and form a higher high. So you put in a higher low, higher high, higher low. Look at this. A higher high, come back down. You want to hold this area now. So far we have a bullish structure. We have a high or a low, a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So on the macro structure, this looks good. There's no reason to be macro bearish on this yet. Once we start to break structure, we can be macro bearish. And we're holding the trend for now, right? Like, you go down to your 4 hour, you got a just simple trend line. We're holding a simple trend line here, bouncing from it. We have a structure shift here. Remember what I said about that B point earlier? Sometimes when you first take it on that first go around, you sweep it and then you come back down. You really want to see candle closes above this B point to really start to see that move up to your D. So we didn't get any candle closes above it. We actually swept liquidity back down. All right. Now on the microstructure, there was a couple things I was taking a trade and I got my recent entry on, which was this one. So 618, this high up here, we're gonna ignore this wick because we want to go to the highest point. That was before the highest point, so you can actually ignore that wick. After that wick, you want to go to your lowest point in the middle. That is a 618. You go to your highest point over here, 786. And this actually went a little bit deeper than your 786. It went to your 886. Which I find these in crypto, Gartley sometimes can go to the 886 in crypto. Alright, so I mean this looks good. It still looks good on the lower time frame. Got a gap here. Could come down. But ultimately I'm looking for 151. Just wanted to check SUI real quick because it still hasn't really pumped too much. You see what is pumping really quick. Last hour, TIA has been the strongest. Last day, TIA, AVAX, KCS, KuCoin's coin has been popping. Holy shit. SNX, IMX, Algo moved. Gary Gensler coin. Rollbits moving. Optimism. Top 100 are the best movers for the day. Top 200, Prime, Magic, Gucci, KUGI, the wallet. Top 300, QI. Oh my god, that fucking coin. BTHO. Cool. You're seeing Radiant move in the top 300, which is interesting. Alright, I'm gonna do a couple more and then I'm gonna head off. So what do you guys want to see? Sol's holding above the macro 67.2, which is your 236 fib from high to low. So holding above this, I mean, that's a good sign. You could see it move upwards to 104. 104. As long as that holds. Below that, I mean, this thing's gone straight up, so we could have a hard crash at some point. Or we could just pump forever. This could be the run. But just know that 104 is in the books, and there's a macro harmonic on it, which is, there's a bat, there's the crab, or the butterfly I have. Scott Carney Software is calling for 122, which makes a lot of sense because you are right here at the weekly order block. Right at the midpoint is the same area of this bat, take profit 1. After that, you got 174, but what you can see is typically price go up to this, retrace, come back down. You are starting to form a couple bearish harmonics down here. And we have been up only for a while, so if you are up a lot, I mean, just make sure you're securing your gains, man, because you got like a perfect bearish harmonic here on Solana. And this can get invalidated, but you want to see price start getting above this as soon as possible. You want to see price stay above 73, 74. I think that was a weekly fair value gap too. Yeah, it was the top of a weekly fair value gap as well. So you got your top of your weekly fair value gap here. I just moved this by accident. So you got a top of a fair value gap right here that completely filled right at your harmonic completion zone. So I mean, I don't know, boys, it's time to be a little careful, especially if you're in from down here. I'll tell you what, I'm in from down here, and I'm starting to look to take profits. So it doesn't mean it's because it's just going to completely nuke. It could be from people that are in down here taking profits up here. So you got to think of, okay, if you got in here, yeah, it's a lot more risky. Price could definitely come back down there. But people that got in here, they're up a lot. So they're up 5x. They could take some profit, and you could see price come down from that. Look at the 4 hour. Yeah, I mean, you have a hidden bullish divergence still on your MACD, but just a regular classic divergence here on your RSI on the 4 hour. So you could get one more push up, and we could go to that 100 some level, but below this, I would be careful. You start flipping that, yeah, you start looking for your higher targets. Simple as that. Probably got a trend going on here. Start losing that as well. Start being a little more careful. Your daily's starting to put in, ew, this is gross. Your daily's putting in a massive bearish divergence. Massive. Look at this. You got a higher high over here, but you got higher low on your MACD and your RSI. Class A bearish divergence on the daily. So I would not be surprised to see a pullback. A lot of things are super extended, so I am using less risk the higher up we are, because things are super extended right now. I mean, you got areas here, if you fib that for a pullback, like 51, 42 area. If this is the top, those would be areas I'd be looking for. 61.37. That's up to you, man. You got to make that decision. If you're happy with the money you got, you got to learn. Do you got any targets in mind or something? you don't have targets, like, you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. Because you're going to hold it all the way up and all the way back down in the run. Even if it went up all the way up here and you have that same emotion because now it's even a lot more and you don't want to sell it, you're going to just start watching it, and then you're going to, even if you do take some out and you see a drop, you're going to be like, okay, I want to get back in. I think this is the bottom. And then it's going to drop again and drop again. So make sure you have targets on the way up. I know, that's the biggest meme ever. Everybody always says that. Yeah, it can keep going. I'm just saying, if you're holding it long term, good. But you want, my analysis right now, it's definitely an area to be careful. You don't have to trade it. You can just hold it. You can hold through the downwind, but if it's going to break your bank, if everything goes 50% down, then yeah, I would probably look at taking some off. Alright guys, I'm gonna head out. I'll probably start doing these some more, so if you guys have questions or anything, let me know. Join my Discord. It's link in my bio on the link tree. Go ahead and like the video if you can, if you like these. But I will start doing some more of these streams, so thanks guys.